everybody. Welcome to the deep dive that nobody asked for on the show, Landman. We're going to do a special joint episode. Why do I have a pen? This is so stupid. Why am I pointing a pen? Episode 3 and 4 today. Okay, everybody's got a pen. Perfect. 3 and 4. We have a text thread going, and Matt, you were like bummed out on episode 3. You didn't seem to be a big fan. So lay that out. What's wrong with episode 3? Because I was a big fan.
Yeah, I just felt like it was stuck in gear the whole time. And I'm trying to go back to, I even have a tough time remembering what happened in it. I guess we dealt with them getting drunk at the pool, and maybe there was another rig visit. So see, I'm just having a tough time with 3. Just wasn't impressionable. I mean, not to say that there weren't parts that were good takeaways, but that's kind of telling
All
what
right.
my thoughts are.
All right, Gates, what did you think of episode 3?
I got a question for Boar and Tui. Have y'all ever had a boss that let you go bill on his account at a country club before? Because I sure haven't.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he wanted me to schmooze people. I mean, I don't know about the country club letting girls get wasted on tequila and stuff like that, but he's definitely let them take nice dinners and things like, I don't know. I hadn't exactly been a country club, but he's flown me places to get leases.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a little different. Episode 3, I don't know, man. I took a whole bunch of notes on stuff, and I wrote over top of all of my notes that there was just too much bullshit drama. And I feel like they continue to try to force the family drama into the middle of a show that is showing parts of our industry, but they're giving more time to that drama than they are actually showing what's going on in the oil field.
Yeah, I guess we could phrase that as character developments. I must admit, I was a little fired up on how the episode started. The hot blonde ex-wife jumping off the private jet in a bikini with just a top on. Oh, I didn't bring any clothes fresh in from Cabo. That kind of got the juices going for me. I thought that was all right. And then rolling right into Monty not letting the dudes play through, I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Sounds like maybe that had happened to you more.
His quote was, "I don't wait on anybody."
Oh, I mean, I let people play through, and I get out of the way because I'm so bad at golf. My spray chart is all over the place. I'm losing dozens of balls. Everyone can do anything to me they want on that damn golf course because I'm just going to hold everyone up if I don't let them through.
Yeah, I don't have to. I don't think anyone's ever had to tell me that. So I'm the fastest golfer there is. So I don't usually have to worry about that. But I thought that was a pretty good scene. I do think that from that scene, Billy Bob is tank it as the fall guy, Gates, not the fall gay.
No, the full gay. I thought the typo was in full and not gay.
I thought that was a pretty good scene. Like Chuck is bringing forth, but I do think a little bit overboard with him being the fall guy at the same time. Like there always has to be a fall guy, so why not let it be Billy Bob, because he's just always kind of played that fixer role. So that part wasn't bad.
I have a point on that, and I wrote a post on the website Landman Life a couple of years back, and I think I called it, I need to go reread my old work, obviously, but I think I called it Bridging the Gap. And we've talked a lot about how they've merged a couple of different roles into the idea of, the landman. But I mean, typically, whenever there's a gap in professional responsibility, whether it be between engineers or attorneys, stuff like that. Landmen get stuck filling those roles and making sure that stuff continues to move forward. So we do end up with a lot of liability doing our job. And if a company ever was trying to find a fall guy, yeah, I do think that a lot of times you could figure out a way to blame it on a landman, because I've gone out and done stuff that is well beyond the purview of what I should be doing as a landman, just to make sure that, you know, the rig gets out on location on time and things of that nature. So I do kind of like that angle. I think they're playing it up a little bit bigger than it really would be. However, it is a TV show and they have a lot of people watching the show that have no idea what we do. So I guess making it bigger is a way of kind of explaining the consequences of those situations.
So, Matt, you're in a small company. I mean, how often do you wear all these hats? Because what we saw in episode 3 and 4 is basically Billy Bob Thornton, Tommy, makes the call on a $2 million workover. He's the fall guy, as Gates was talking about. I mean, do you wear those hats?
I don't think it's as pronounced. I think it's kind of a team effort for everything. I mean, I'm not making a lot of, the decisions, I guess, are kind of made by committee or made, kind of in conjunction with one another. I do think there are a lot of hats we do wear, and so, it's like, what do you do? What do you do at Forge? And it's like, well, I'm land manager, but what is that? And it's anything from watering the plants, filling up the fridge with water bottles, to negotiating leases or deals or that sort of thing. So I think it takes a wide gamut of things that we do. But I think, going back to where I've worked previously, and if you have the accessibility to the field, like when I was working in Ohio and we were within an hour drive, I spent a lot more time out in the field doing things. But it's now where we're at in relation to the assets or the areas that we tend to target, 4.5, 5 hours is usually a bit of a trek. So some of those things that are being done on the ground a lot of times aren't being done by me. They may be done by consultants that I utilize. And like I've always told one of my main landmen, Jake, that like, if I have to go to the field, you're fired. So some of those things have changed. But
look at Matt going all Monty on us right there. Nice. You're gonna have to wear a fucking tie
Monty
next time you
Tooie.
say that. Monty Tooie. All right, so
that $2 million workover was a 35-year-old well, by the way. They talk about that it's a 35-year-old well, a $2 million workover. And one of the guys in the scene says, I think Billy Bob says, "What do you think's wrong with it?" And the guy says, "I think the perforation kicked up." Like, what?
Well, I mean, the interesting thing is we know it's a $2 million workover because Monty tells his wife that. So half of me thinks Monty is just sitting there inflating things for his wife, just to kind of play martyr, right? God damn it, I hate to invest $2 million in a well just so she won't ask for a new gold necklace that afternoon. So I think that's one thing.
That makes sense.
I've
overemphasized some disasters so my wife keep the fucking credit card bill down before.
So when all three kids were young, my ex-wife went away for the first weekend, and it was kind of cute because I just ran a military operation with the kids. It was like line up, we all did salutes, and we all had jobs. And and the kids kind of fought it for about the first 30 minutes. And then they got into it. What's my next assignment, Dad? And we were making up, we cleaned the house, we made the beds, we did all this sort of stuff. So Sunday night, 7 o'clock, everybody's in bed, everybody's been fed. The house is literally spotless. And Kim walks in and goes, how was it? And I go, oh, it was a piece of cake. We had a blast. And she starts crying, oh my God, you don't need me, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, I never told the truth after that about anything. Oh yeah, sweetie, it was so miserable. We need you so much. So I think that's what's going on with the $2 million CapEx. But the interesting thing is it was making 12 barrels a day, and then they do the workover and they get it back to 250 a day. So that's real money.
Yep.
I mean, but how many times have you seen a 35-year-old well still doing $200 barrels a day? That's just like a vertical, not part of a water flood or anything like that.
I mean, I think in South Louisiana, there were instances where, you're picking perfs up hole or down hole, but a lot of times up hole. And yeah, you could, I mean, it's conceivable that you could go and pop some perfs and hit a 200, 300 barrel zone that hadn't been depleted or tested yet. So
that's fair. That's fair. I hadn't thought of that, going to a behind pipe zone.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Just for my mom who's potentially watching is, Mom, a vertical well, you produce down here for a while. And because different pressure regimes, a lot of times you have to produce formation by formation. And so you just move up the hole and produce things until they're done. But I was sitting there thinking, 200 barrels a day is like a pretty good modern horizontal well 3 years later, not 35 years later.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Gates, I misunderstood your question. I've never gotten the open tab, by the way, at the country club. I had a boss who was pretty liberal with the credit card when I was taking out people to get deals done. So, strip clubs and he didn't want to know some of the answers about where we were going, but never the open tab at the country club.
For your ex-wife and your daughter?
My boss hated my ex-wife, so he certainly wouldn't give it to her.
She didn't wear a short enough skirt.
Oh no, she did plenty of that shit. Learned? It was just I think he just kind of sniffed her out as soon as she came in. He was fucking right.
All right. I want to talk serious for just a second about the scene where Cooper goes to the house of the family members that had all passed away in the accident from the previous show. I thought he handled it with a lot of grace and humanity. He kind of walked up, he had flowers, and he said, his quote was, "Your husband was nice to me. They all were." And I thought he handled that really well. I mean, give me thoughts on that scene, Gates.
I mean, I've been in situations with people you work with that have passed away and gone to the wake and all of that stuff. So it's always a somber situation, and your relationship is professional with those people. So when you're mixing it up with family and close friends, it is always kind of awkward. And I think they portrayed kind of that aspect in a real way. I thought that scene maybe went on for a little bit longer than it needed to, and they sure like showing that kid eating spicy food.
Well, they really do. They did that like 3 times.
I love the line of, "You overestimated my ability to handle spice." That was a pretty good line.
We've all been to wakes and stuff, but I've never had a hot Latina girl, reach over and put her arm around me in a wake and then call me later.
Yeah, no, I think they're being way too overt on that thing. in terms of there's just going to be a huge problem there because the cousin, the cousin pulls the knife out after they go to Babes and Brews again and says, "You touch her, I'm going to kill you." So yeah, I'm a little worried about.
Remember, he had beat that guy's ass too, though. That was funny.
Yeah, I did wrestling back at Tech. It's like I didn't even know Tech had a wrestling team, much less they were any good about it. So, okay, Matt, give me thoughts about the in effect the wake type scene, if you will.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit drawn out, but I think it it brought some, like you had said, humanity to the whole scene, and really just like brought to light, how everyone out there, whether they think they're is indirectly a family, working out on the rigs, on location, that sort of thing. And so I think that kind of created like this idea, or at least tried to depict that like you have all these backgrounds that come together on location or within the industry, and yeah, there may be kind of this internal strife or biases that take place before everyone gets to know everyone. And I think it did a good job of bringing that like whole thing together as to, everyone effectively being a family.
Yeah. The kind of parallel I picked up from that scene was, and we'll get into this more, but Tommy's ex-wife basically divorces him and marries the rich dude, the guy that builds hotels, to in effect take care of her kids, right? Because Tommy had lost everything, so they didn't have any money, and she basically says, "Yeah, I did this just for my kids and all." You kind of get that vibe from the widow that I got to find a dad for my kids. So there's going to be some parallels going in on that. So, yeah. All right, since we're trying to hit both these episodes in one, is this hyperbole? Literally the greatest defense of the energy business ever. And I've seen, no offense, Chris Wright. I've seen Chris Wright do it. I've seen Scott Tinker do it. I've seen Alex Epstein. But literally Billy Bob sitting there out there looking at the windmills, talking to the trial lawyer they brought in. Gates, give me your take on that scene.
So, I mean, he was ripping into him. He made a lot of valid points. I don't think that anybody is being truthful about the actual carbon footprint of any of those wind turbines. I made a note. I was kind of interested. Are there actually wind turbines set up for powering pump jacks out in West Texas?
I was wondering the same thing.
I don't know about that, but when he said we're off the grid, I thought that was kind of interesting because in order to run those wind turbines, you've got to have giant transmission lines and transformer stations and all of that set up. So I don't think that that's realistic to have wind turbines just for powering, pump jacks, but I don't know for sure in terms of the way that he was describing the situation with don't even get me started on the lithium in the batteries in your Tesla and all of that. I think he had a pretty well-rounded rebuttal against, she said clean energy and he said alternative energy. There's nothing clean about it. So, I mean, I liked that scene until it got a little too dramatic with the rattlesnake, but
Yeah, I'll jump in here. I think that I'm with Gates. Like it was really good until the rattlesnake came about, because it's like, oh, here's another Texas cliche. I've been out in the field hundreds of times. I've never seen a rattlesnake, especially in an exposed area like that. So, but I think talking about the substantiveness of the scene itself, I thought was really, really good. And I would like to see Billy Bob fact checked, legitimate fact checkers to see if there was anything within that soliloquy that was off. And Gates, to your question or your point about that, I thought that exact same thing, because we have some wells that we operate in a distant part of Pecos County, and we have a Bitcoin mine there, and it makes sense to have that mine there for gas purposes. But I still think it's generally a whole lot easier to lay electrical line or get the utility to come to you than it is to have any sort of alternative energy source to be your electrical source. So I scratched my head on that too, because I was like, that seems like a whole lot of capital. But at the same time, I'm not in that space, and I don't know what sort of tax kickbacks are coming through. And I do not think I don't, from the best of my knowledge, they mentioned that Exxon and the operators own those windmills, and I don't know that that's ever been the case unless it's subsidiaries that do own those properties, and that could be the case. So, yeah.
So, Boar, lay that scene on me, and I'm agreeing with you. I don't think I've ever seen windmills owned by an E&P company.
It was fucking awesome because she's obviously some shit lib Gen Z, naive asshole who doesn't know how any of this shit works, and she's also like she'll ask for things or get saved by things and then complain about them. Like, you can't win with her. She gets saved from the snake, and then she's like, "Why'd you kill it?" She complains about the prostitution in the bar, and then Tommy disrupts the sale of her prostitution. Then she complains about that to him. Oh, she's just trying to make a living. She asks a question about boomtowns, and then she complains when he gives her a gloomy answer about the realities of booms and busts. She's just you can't fucking win with this person. She's kind of a disgusting human, honestly. She's like irresponsibly, reprehensibly naive. Didn't say thank you for the snake. Standard piece of shit, Gen Z lib who doesn't know anything about what makes her life possible and what saves her on a daily basis. So I just want to say she sucks. They're going to bring it back to where, she's going to maybe start getting sweet on Tommy. There's going to be this fight or whatever with the ex-wife or what. And that's fine. That'll be a lot of fun. But right now, I fucking hate her.
Cat fight.
Yeah, but right now she can fuck off.
Do we talk?
What?
No, I was Chuck. I don't know if you're going this way, but do we talk about the scene where she's managing the deposition?
Oh yeah.
Can we go ahead and talk about that?
So before we do that, while we're on his speech, I want to say this. I think we as an industry totally just suck at telling our story. One, we don't do it. Two, we're a bunch of engineers, and engineers just suck. They throw facts and figures at stuff, and that doesn't connect with anyone. I think the only time I've seen a really effective ad in the energy business is API, the American Petroleum Institute, did it 20 years ago, and Energy Transfer's done it the last 3 or 4 years, is when you have products made out of plastic, and i.e. petroleum, disappear, that really connects with stuff. And so I thought Tommy's rattling off of it's in everything. This road we did, tennis rackets, lipstick, antihistamines, plastics, garbage bags, and her responding with, it's going to be the thing that kills us. And his response of, what's going to kill us is if we run out of it before we find its replacement. So I thought in a emotional kind of storytelling way that hopefully resonated with people, and the shit libs out there that you talk about kind of went, holy fuck, maybe we really do need this stuff, because I thought it was good, and I'm scared to death of rattlesnakes, so that's long for me too.
I haven't seen many rattlesnakes out hunting or anything, but I mean there are places where they're hotbeds. I stepped on a fucking rattlesnake when I was like 22 years old, going to look at these stripper wells up around Wichita Falls. And it was the scariest. It felt so big that like my foot kind of like planted over it. It was massive, and I just sprint. I literally used it as a wedge to just. It was like a starting block. I sprinted off of the damn thing, and it scared the piss out of me.
Oh shit! That would have, yeah, I would have been hurt too, just sitting there. I love how she didn't move, and I love his line after he kills it. Are we going to sit around and wait for a fucking mountain lion now? But so rate this on a scale of like Tommy's speech. Rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, and 1 is like, you know, shitty, having to listen to whatever, and 10 is like Gordon Gekko in Wall Street saying greed is good. Matt, 1 to 10, how do we rate Tommy's speech?
9.5.
All right, Boar, what
I'll
do
give
you
it.
rate?
It was excellent, but now that you've made me put it up against geckos, I have to give it an 8.
Okay, fair enough. Gates, where do you rank it?
I think I'm going with a 7. He made some good points, but I don't think the delivery was near as inspirational as what you're putting it up against.
All right, well, you know, Oliver Stone's really good, although I did like the line about how much fucking oil you think it takes to lubricate that thing. I thought that was good. All righty, so Matt, get to episode 4 and the settlement talks. Have you ever had settlement talks like that? I never have.
No, I mean, I think there's probably been deal talks, that I don't think that are that adversarial, but there are the same people in the room. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Probably not that, but there's been situations that have been close to that probably didn't get the settlement where we're negotiating. I do think she redeemed herself pretty solidly in that scene. That was pretty interesting. Although I do think is the sexism really that rampant in still today? Like, I mean, that guy, that male attorney, that whatever he was saying,
he didn't even say anything sexist. There was nothing sexist about what he said, and the answer is fucking no. Of course, there's not. Not in those situations with a bunch of guys in a room, maybe, but not when there's a lady present. We're landmen. We cuss, we drink, divorce, all that shit, but we certainly are gentlemen to women. This is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, there's the backup.
Sorry, I hijacked that.
Gates, lay it on us.
I mean, I've never been in settlement talks, so I have no idea what goes on in those most of the time, but I'm pretty sure you can't just lay it on somebody like that and then say, we're walking out of the room. I don't think that's how it typically ends, right. And I don't think that anything verbal solidifies the end of the conversation.
Absolutely, that's right.
Have any of y'all ever negotiated a PSA with Jack Hightower? By any
no,
chance?
I've seen him though.
Nope.
My old boss did some deals with him,
and I like Jack, so I'm not gonna. But we were negotiating a PSA with him, and what we figured out with Jack was he just pushed you until you walked away. He had to make sure he got everything. If you would have told him before, hey man, you're going to get 100, and he was happy with that, he wouldn't be happy in the meeting at 100. He'd have to push you. So we literally walked out of the room 3 times and got chased down in the elevator lobby of, why don't you come back in and do it? And it was literally the most painful thing on the planet. And anyway, another time I had a CEO that would always call me up and want to do stuff. Hey, we need to do this. And I'd be like, yeah, that's not really what we need to do. Or, let's not really do this. And I remember one day just being so pissed off at him where I was like, hey, Barry, every time you get me to say no, it's just that much easier the next time. So be careful. But no, I hadn't seen either. I thought she ripped it. So I'm going to say, I'll go first and I'll run around the horn because it has to do with this scene. My favorite line in episode 4 was after, the lawyer totally destroys him. Billy Bob asks her out for a drink. She's like, why are we going out for a drink? And he's like, she's like, if you're trying to date me, 30-year age difference, not going to do it. If you're thinking something more casual, I want you to know you're up against a little toy the size of a lipstick case that never talks back and never makes me sleep in the wet spot. I think that was the best line of the show. All right, Gates, give me a favorite line or talk more about that scene or take this anywhere you want to go.
I mean, I'm still having a tough time with that attorney and the fact that she's probably under 30. She said she's been an attorney for 4 years and she's their expert on causation of liability and all that. So I don't know. I'm still kind of stuck on that, having a hard time getting past it.
Yeah, fair enough. What do you think, Boy?
They're finally getting into some deal talk. I love Monty's story that he's telling the attorney in the bar how he leased up a bunch of acreage for $900 an acre and sold it for $70,000 an acre. That and he grew up poor and got a scholarship as a high school quarterback. That's literally a story of a guy I know in Houston, and like I sent him a screenshot of that, and I love that part. That's like my favorite. That's the dream right there. That's what you do. And so I like that whole dialogue. I'm not sure I remember the specific quote, but that really got me going.
Well, and the thing I'll give Taylor Sheridan credit about is he got the years just about right. I mean, in 2011, you really could get, Permian acreage for $900 an acre, and it was the old Wolfberry Fields. I mean, sure. We were all sitting there going, holy shit, is this thing going to work or not? Horizontals. And there was a real train of thought out there in the industry that it was drained, because you have been drilling Wolfberry wells out there forever and selling it. Maybe that was a little late in 2019. I know it was said to be right before COVID, but yeah, you were selling it $70,000 an acre, kind of 17, 18. Yeah, probably not into 19, but Taylor got the vintaging right.
Yeah, that was fun.
And I think the vintaging, I think the metrics, everything was pretty good there. Because didn't he say Reeves County too? It was 10,000 acres in Reeves County.
He said the Delaware. He said Delaware, it was in the Delaware subbasin. Yeah. I do love the shout out to Texas Tech because this is Cody Campbell. I mean, right?
Yeah,
got the football scholarship and all that.
Yep.
All right. So let's talk this. So grabbing the drink with the lawyer, the ex-wife comes in, the daughter being so dramatic. Do you have another daughter? Is this your side piece? That was kind of funny. But then they all wind up having a dinner together, and he tells the story about, or she tells the story about Tommy hiring George Strait to play a private concert for her. And that just felt so oil field because I'm sure that's happened. What did you think of that?
It was cool. Before I don't mean to keep ranting on the attorney. Me and Gates both hate her, but she, before that, the lipstick thing, she's always thinking people are trying to screw her, isn't she? Like have sex with her. I mean, she's good looking and all, but that's what they all think is like, oh, everyone wants to screw me. I'm the center of attention, main character bullshit. I agree with Matt though that she redeemed herself a little bit in the boardroom, even though it was a little bit unrealistic and dramatic. And I do like that she wanted to mix it up by going ahead and going to dinner with the ex. That would be some shit that I would do.
All right, Matt, go ahead. What did you think about that whole thing?
Yeah, I thought it was. I think it finally gave us some light on how he came about the debt and where he ended up and why she had to go marry someone else. And I do think maybe it over dramatizes the boom and bust situation a bit, and that I think maybe, and Chuck, you talk about this a lot, but I think we've gotten a whole lot better, more financially sound as an industry than the way things may have been at the 2005 all the way to 2018. where it was just like you lost everything in that bust. Like that was kind of the old days. Whereas now it's like you're always trying to protect your downside, or at least hedge against your downside as much as possible. Not to say that you can't lose everything, but I thought that was a little bit much. But I do think he had a great quote about people being drawn to oil boom towns. I don't know if it was that scene, but I think it was. And he said, we ain't any different than Tombstone or Dodge City or San Francisco. First come the dreamers, then the bankers, then the salesmen, then the sharks, then the desperate, and then the thieves. And I think that really captivated, like when you think of some of these boom and bust cycles or these boom and bust towns, like how it does progress. You've seen, I mean, we've seen multiple iterations of it in the various plays in the Permian or down in the Eagleford or up in Appalachia. I mean, all of us have experienced that ourselves. So it was a really good depiction of what goes on, and also kind of may explain why, if you're going to Midland for the first time, you're like, well, why doesn't this downtown look like, magnificent? Well, they've been through a few busts and know that the next one, just may not be worth it.
Yeah, why do they have the double murder tree as the nicest hotel in Midland? We really need. God, it sucks going out there because there's no good hotels. Everyone's like, oh, there's a good Marriott in Odessa.
Right?
Well, all my shit's in Midland. Why don't we fucking go to Odessa? I'm gonna get stuck. I'm gonna go to
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to fucking Odessa, and I'm gonna be tempted to go to Jaguars or some shit, and then I'm gonna have a bad fucking night.
So I want to go back to the George Strait concert and something that you said in the first episode that we recorded, Chuck, where you said that people went into the oil business because they wanted to get fucking rich and because it was sexy. And I think that's what they're tuning into with talking about taking the plane over to Lubbock for the George Strait concert and having the black sequin ball gown laid out in the hotel suite and all of that. Like, that's what they were going for and trying to tap into and give that backstory, which is something that you had already talked about. And I liked that part.
Well, you know what was interesting? When I was a young associate at Stevens, I went to the Petroleum Club for lunch in Midland. I'm sitting around there with all these old guys. And the two stories I have is, one, those old guys talked about their companies just like water off a duck's back. Oh, that was my second company. I like that one. I lost that in the bus to here. The third one, I liked it. My ex-wife took. And then the fourth one, just didn't faze them. And I was young and just kind of made the point of, hey, why don't you save some money in the good times, and that way you can get through the bad times. And some old guy put his arm around me and said, oh, hell, son, it's a lot more fun to spend that money than to save it. And so that was just the thing. So I totally, at $143 oil, of course you're going to hire George Strait to play for your wife. One of the things I tried to do for my ex-wife, Kim, her favorite band was Nine Inch Nails. I literally negotiated with Nine Inch Nails' agent for about 6 months to try to get Nine Inch Nails to play Kim's birthday party. And finally, Trent Reznor was just, this is too weird. I'm not going to come play some like, I'm head like a hole. I'm not going to come play some lady's birthday party. But we did get to meet Trent Reznor next time he was in town. So that was pretty cool. All right. So why don't we do this? Let's run around the horn and let's just do a final thought. You can take it anywhere you want to take it. I'm going to start with, I think they missed a real opportunity when the lawyer and Tommy are at the bar and the ex-wife comes up and the daughter, and they all agree to go eat dinner. Tommy looks at the lawyer and is like, oh my God, you do know this could be a scene. And she's like, oh, hell yeah, I'm going to learn a lot about you tonight. And he goes, let me get the tab. And she goes, I already got it. They flash to Tommy, who just sits there for a second to take it all in. and the bartender's in the back. And, he's been giving shit to the bartender the whole time about not wanting a tip. I think the bartender had a great line there, and they blew it. They went to the next scene instead of having the bartender say something like, she tips better than you do or something. So I'm enjoying the bartender and Tommy's.
I do love that banter. That's pretty good. He said something like, he must be a trust fund kid because he never gives a shit about a tip.
Yeah, he's doing this for fun. Yeah, I love that. I love that. All right, Matt, give us a final thought of something.
Yeah, I think final thought is for us as we sit here and critique the story and how things go about. Like, I have to take a step back sometimes and realize, like, it could it be better? Yes, but I think generally it's been a pretty decent show. I think there's bits and pieces that we've torn apart that we'd like to take out, but for the most part, like, I think it's been pretty good. So I'm hopeful for the episodes to come, but I know we're just going to run into other situations again where we've got situations like the Landman picking perfs on a recomplete and trying to get approval for it over the phone. I mean, I think that's probably just going to happen, and that's kind of the jack of all trades that Billy Bob plays in this. So just we got to take everything with a grain of salt going forward. I think still be critical, but at the same time, like I do think it's on a decent path.
All right, Gates, what's your final thought here?
So back to the wind turbines, I really liked the part where the attorney, when they're driving up to him, she says, "God, they're massive," and he starts talking about they're 400 feet tall, and the concrete foundation takes up 3/4 of an acre and goes 12 feet down into the ground and all that. I worked out in Sweetwater, Texas, back in, I think, 2011, maybe 2012. And they have a bunch of wind turbines up in just north of there, like in between Sweetwater and Snyder. And so we were working in all the counties surrounding Sweetwater, and I would drive back to Sweetwater every night after finishing up in the courthouse somewhere, and I'd drive by all these wind turbines. And so I was driving on the highway one day, and I saw they had a crane working on setting up one of those turbines. And I thought, all right, well, this is cool. So I stopped at the gas station, grabbed a 6-pack, took the county road out as close as I could to where they were working on this. And I sat there and watched the crane setting up one of the props on the turbine. And that was the point where I realized, like, how huge these things are. And then about 2 weeks later, I was driving back and I got to stop and take some pictures at sunset of a drilling rig that somebody had running out there in the middle of all these wind turbines. And the drilling rig looks tiny compared to all these turbines. I mean, I drove up to a couple of them. I was trying to find the picture to send to you guys. I can't find it yet. I'm sure I will at some point, but I parked my truck next to the base of one of those turbines. And that's a, full-size bed, F-150, full double cab, everything. And the wind turbine was massively wider than my truck parked next to it. As long as my truck is, it was wider than that. Those things are huge. And I think that was probably, my favorite part of the show so far was kind of ripping in on those wind turbines.
We've seen Allie Larder's tits.
Yeah.
We've seen Demi Moore in a bathing suit, and Gates likes the wind turbine. All right, Boar, close us out. Give us a final thought.
Well, again, I love the deal talk about Monty. That's you talked about we all got in the oil business to be rich, and that's the dream, and he hit the dream. I love the rant. I love the anti-lib rant that he gave. The lawyers suck. She's standard every Gen Z. I'm just kind of wrapping up everything I've already said here. But it is getting more interesting. I have wanted to see Allie Larder's tits since Varsity Blues. They never really poked through that whipped cream well enough, so I'm pretty pleased. I like the show in general, by the way. Yes, we bitch about the inaccuracies, but the show is good. And if she was a normal ex-wife, this first of all, it wouldn't be realistic for a landman to have a normal ex-wife. Second of all, it's fucking boring. We got to have some fucking psychopath that drinks too much and bounces around between men with a crazy ass daughter. We're having a blast with the show.
That we are. All right, you guys are great doing this. We'll be back next week to do episode 5.